But what I saw in Delhi, my memory went back to the days when we all participated in such agitations in 1974 in the Bihar movement. See, when I am giving a perspective, it is not as a journalist or an observer, as one who has actually participated in political and apolitical programs. I started off as a political worker and ended up as a apolitical thinker. But something which starts apolitically becomes political. That is what has happened today. Because in this country, politics has played a very, very central role. I recall when I was a BCom student, I read in those days, there used to be a book called Non-Detailed Book. I don't know whether this book that is there in the syllabus these days. It will be a collection of essays of different people. And one of the essays was Aldous Huxley's essays about India. Then he had come. And he says, wherever I go, I see politics. Here, politics. On the dinner table or anywhere you go, Indians are so much interested in politics. That was the greatest contribution of the freedom fighters, that they made this country politically conscious, and that only brought about political unity. In fact, I have done extensive analysis. If only freedom fight was not there and it was not led by great people who had laid out a discourse, this country would never have got politically integrated. Its mind was first integrated through political programs, and then it became structurally possible to do it through the Constitution of India. So politics played a very central role. But politics at that time was never personal. It was never sectional. It was never selfish. It had a higher purpose. It was posited a larger idea before the people. It began declining much later. And the decline dates, if you put the dots, it all started in 1969 with the breakup of the Congress, which I was explaining to Arvindji about 10 minutes ago. So there is scope for, in India, public expression of dissent. This was started by Gandhi, and many people thought it had no role. After we had attained freedom, we constituted the parliament, elected representatives, and why people should come onto the streets. This used to be one view. This is the view of people like Gopal Krishna Gokhale, who told Mahatma Gandhi, fight through constitutional means, not come onto the road. Because this will set a very bad example. After India attains freedom, this will be the basis on which people will begin expressing their anger. And there will be anarchy in the society. But Gandhi did not accept this view. He felt that whatever be the competence of political parties, leaders, and the car to express, be the representative. A representative democracy is not equal to participatory democracy. It's not equal to deliberative democracy. Gandhi's greatest contribution was to have reinstated the traditional Indian idea of deliberative democracy. It just doesn't depend on the representatives, political parties, government. It supplements it, but it must supplement. It should not compete. It should not become a problem. There should be alignment. That is why peaceful protests are the only way by which you align direct public action with constitutional functioning. I participated in the JP movement. One condition on which JP took the movement was, if there is a single instance of violence, I will leave the movement. That is leadership. 2 years the movement went on. It shook the government. The violence was from the police. Not a single stone thrown. The greatest example of a mass movement which led to emergency because the government had no other means of containing it. The next was the ASU movement in Assam, a very genuine movement led by student leaders who later became politicians because the party was formed much later. But they fought only against infiltration that was threatening Assam. The government was unconcerned about it. They made a local issue, what was thought to be a local issue, as a national risk. If ASU agitation had not taken place, the issue of infiltration into Assam would never have become a public issue or national issue. Completely peaceful. It is only the state which oppressed them, killed them, shot them. Not a single stone thrown. You can, today in the age of artificial intelligence, you can Google and get whether there was any untoward happening from the side of the agitators. No. That is Anna Hazare agitation. In fact, we had also a role in it. We organized a meeting in which, of course, Anna did not participate, others participated, because the whole country was concerned about corruption. And political parties were not that alert. And they also carried their own baggage of record, which was not worth projecting before the people against a corrupt regime, because they will always say, you are also corrupt. That is how Anna Hazare agitation took shape. Completely peaceful. In fact, when Baba Ramdev sat on fast, the police actually took action against them, and many people were attacked, and 2 were killed. It is the state. But what happened now is something you have to set it in this backdrop. At that time, when we were participating in the Bihar movement, there was no social media. So it is only through personal appeal, bringing people and making them understand, one to one contact only made that large agitation possible. And it was a very, as I said, a disciplined agitation. No faceless people were there. There were large crowds. But everybody was, in a sense, personally contacted and briefed, and this is the position, we are fighting for this. In the same way, the widespread ASU agitation was also, in a way, it was affecting everybody. It is in the neighborhood. There are law and order issues, communal issues. It was affecting everybody. Not much communication was needed. Somebody only will have to say, we have to fight against it. So people came together. But normally it could have become a violent agitation, because there was a communal tinge also, both linguistic problem. There was also an attempt to divide the movement into Bengalis and Assamese, and also communal Hindu and Muslim. But still, the movement came out as a very peaceful movement. But here what happened is, the issue itself is a meaningless issue for a large agitation. Yes, there has been leaking of this neat paper, a very wrong thing to happen. But most people do not know that paper leak has been part of the history of governments conducting examinations, and nearly in 140 examinations. Okay, so Rahul Gandhi issued a statement also. In 140 examinations, there have been paper leaks, and majority of them, 120 or so, by the state government, about 20 by the central government in different categories. In NEET also, there were 3 occasions when this breach was there. But the important point is, when you go for an agitation, if the NEET examination had damaged permanently, one academic year over, but within 30 days, I don't think you could have conceptualized all over the country, more than 2 million people appearing for an examination, in the backdrop of an examination cancelled, and the examination being peacefully conducted, and results announced, people joining. This was before the agitation started. The immediate problem had been solved. So if you are launching an agitation, the agitation is a post-mortem. This post-mortem is not to be done in the streets. It has to be by some process by which how do you stop this nonsense? Nobody is interested in this nonsense. You know, the most important thing in the NEET paper leak is the greedy parents, greedy coaching centers, greedy students. They were responsible for it. There is nothing to show that there was anybody from the side of the government involved. I can understand if somebody from Dharmendra Pradhan, some relative was in charge of it. Completely, the setup was independent. It had nothing to do with government. So a post-mortem has to be conducted because there is nothing which is a scam. A scam and a wrong are two different things. Wrong things keep happening. Only when the wrong is suppressed, it becomes a scam. Corruption, it happens. You can never stop corruption. We all fought the Bofors issue. I was one of the leading persons who was campaigning against the Bofors corruption, and we all paid the price for it. It became an issue only when the government said there is nothing, there is no commission paid, there is no bribery, then it became an issue. If on the first day, Rajiv Gandhi had issued a statement, yes, we hear the Swedish radio had said that there are commissions paid, we will inquire into it. The entire Bofors should have gone for a 6. It's only because you attempted to suppress it, it became an issue. And it became an issue which ultimately threw you out of power. That is scam. So if the government had said no leak, nothing has happened, you can go on agitating that there is a paper leak and all that. Nothing would have happened. On the basis of leaked papers, the government could have conducted the examination, gone ahead and suppressed the whole thing. Nothing would have happened. But actually, the remedy was over before the agitation started. And the man who declared the agitation was neither a student, nor a parent, or a Gen Z, as it is now fashionable to say they are representing Gen Z. For 20 days, they gave tea, they gave coffee, they gave tiffin, they gave lunch, they gave sweets. People are not assembling. Then political forces entered. That is where the government misjudged. They marched to parliament. They marched to parliament. Possibly the government thought it would not be more than 7, 8, 10,000 people, but it came 30, 40,000 people. Your police force was just 3,000. So the government was shocked, unprepared. But I will put when this faceless crowd, just few hundred yards away from parliament, a human bomb can mix in it and go. What will happen? Is it a law and order issue? Near the parliament, our parliament had been attacked. And the parliament is in session. The entire country's representatives are there, including the opposition party leaders. I think the government should have taken greater precaution to ensure that there is no problem very near parliament. And force had to be used because they were getting near parliament. And to say the force should not have been used is, I think, very presumptive about how this crowd would behave. The crowd demonstrated how it would behave. Because when there is a crowd, it is the most violent among them who sets the lead, and not the most peaceful among them. And the peaceful is brushed aside. This is crowd mentality. Because those who come into the crowd, they have not come for NEET. They have come for some other purpose. Some have come for opposing LGBT, supporting LGBTQ. Some have come for supporting Article 370, scrapping to be opposed. Some have come for their own individual purposes. And of course, some wanted to kill Modi. This kind of people, when they assemble, there is no single purpose. It's anarchy because the mind is anarchic. The crowd is anarchic. The actions are anarchic. This can never be allowed. So I think what was, from the beginning, it was not a political movement. I mean, take Wang Suk, for instance. He had nothing to do with this issue at all. Suddenly he came in. Why? And but for his past, the movement would have died long ago. Why did he come? Because he was facing FCRA proceedings. See, every man's impetus, the impulse that is driving people is their own agenda is getting affected. It has very little to do with the stated purposes, that is opposing NEET. You are not even opposing NEET. In Tamil Nadu, there is opposition to NEET. I had seen this agitation for 7 years. Every year there used to be a huge agitation against NEET. But after the examination is announced, everybody will participate in the examination. And in the next year, there will again be agitation against NEET. This is a political tamasha that was going on. But, at the time also, one or two people would die in NEET examination. In Kota, most people died in Kota. In Tamil Nadu, in the 10th class examination, at least half a dozen people die every year. Nobody agitates. But in NEET examination, when a girl died, that became national news. All political parties went to their house. Somebody gave 1 crore rupee for that family. This is politics. Even in Tamil Nadu today, there is no opposition to NEET. It has subsided. Nowhere in the country there is opposition to NEET. It is about how to conduct the examination. That is not something which you can decide through a crowd or an agitation or by beating a policeman or by marching to parliament. And when the parliament is in session, what is the opposition for? The opposition began participating in the agitation. Instead of doing it, if you can stall the parliament, you can abuse the government. But why do you participate in the agitation? This is chaotic. This is not what peaceful agitation which Mahatma Gandhi wanted as parallel to constitutionalism in India has been completely perverted, and without a purpose, without a direction, without a goal to be achieved. If there is a mob that has been incited, what will happen has happened. My feeling is, even the media, it is a subject of contextual sensationalism. They have to show something. In fact, I was discussing yesterday in a media interview that when something wrong happens, whether it is right or wrong, the news will be published the next day. But there will be an editorial team sitting and discussing. I have been part of that team. We will discuss the whole pros and cons. Write an editorial. The next day, the editorial will appear to guide the people. Of course, each paper will write its own view, but nobody will support violence. Nobody in editorial would support or justify violence, so long as the print media was the main media. When TV came, it began deciding the opinion of the people to the person holding the camera. No thinking, nothing. And everybody is excited through the contextual sensationalism, contextual compulsions, contextual anger, which is anarchy. Social media made it even worse. At least TV media was showing what is happening, and wrong things are happening. Social media is promoting wrong things. Go there, hit, take stones. We are living in the social media age. The Supreme Court celebrated the social media. But when the Supreme Court became the target, it said social media has to be contained. Because everybody looks at only whether I am affected by social media, whether it is the government or the courts or the lawyers or any profession, industry. But nobody is worried if the Constitution of India is affected by, the functioning of the Constitution of India is affected by social media. I think this has provided an opportunity. And if it had happened in Delhi, nobody would have bothered. In Chennai, nobody would have bothered. Because it has happened in Delhi, it has brought the larger idea of what are the limits to agitation. My suggestions to government. I don't think the government is going to listen to me, but it is my duty to give this suggestion because I have been giving suggestions to the government for the last 30, 40 years, irrespective of whether they listen to me or not. There should be no agitation within 3 kilometers of parliament. You cannot have an agitation inside the stomach of the parliament just 500 yards away. And the parliament is in session. Parliament has been hit in India. We almost went to war with Pakistan in the Parakram action. That is history. Imagine in this crowd of 30, 40,000 people, 4 terrorists had got in. What would have happened? So this is not an ordinary issue of people's right to protest and peacefully. The police used this degree of violence attack. The police was wrong in using this measure of action. It's completely outside because the person who is on the stage at that particular time taking the decision before the crowd to protect the parliament, no court can sit in judgment over that particular individual, whether it is a police inspector or a commissioner, because he has to take decisions in 20 seconds. You can sit in, you can constitute a commission of inquiry whether he was right or wrong. This is what Venugopal Commission, which went into the Mandaikadu riots in Tamil Nadu, the judge said, gentlemen, we are all sitting in an air-conditioned room to sit and decide what the inspector did at that time was correct or not. See the heat he was facing. See how women were being attacked. How our women were being disrobed. Can anyone maintain voice of a saint and say, no, 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 we should persuade them? We will hit them. And the police official, he ordered shooting and 5 people died. Became a huge issue. It is about a temple. Here it is about a parliament. I told the media yesterday, of course they still call me, even though I criticized them. I told them, did you ever project it as a national security issue just in front of the parliament? By a crowd which is faceless, not led by any responsible man to whom you can go and talk. Who do you invite for talk? It's a mess. I said, did you posit all this in your discourse? You are only interested in showing how things are burned, how somebody is bait and somebody is. I mean, these are all very small things as compared to the risk which you are supposed to speak about. So at least, we may have our likes and dislikes, but there are certain things which we can never like. There are certain things which we should not dislike, because that is what makes a country, and that is what makes rule of law. And there are people who keep arguing there should be no capital punishment, and there are people who keep arguing there should be capital punishment. Both are right, because from their perspective, whether for rape capital punishment should be there or not. Large number of people in the last 10 years have come forward to argue that in case of sexual abuse, there should be capital punishment. But for murder, there should not be capital punishment. For terrorism, there should not be capital punishment. This kind of perverse discourse is putting the country at risk. These are all the issues which we must focus on. A completely post-mortem agitation is neither preventive nor curative. I can understand by this agitation, you would cure the ills of the NEET examination. Well, you must do it. You want NEET scrapped, you can agitate. That's not your demand. You say NEET must be conducted properly. For the leak, somebody has to resign. By Dharmendra Pradhan resigning, he means to say NEET examination mischief is going to be cured. It's a political demand. It's ego between the ruling party and the opposition. Once the opposition makes a demand, The ruling party can never concede. That is the biggest strength of Dharmendra Pradhan today. By making a demand like this, you make his resignation difficult. So, as someone who has had this experience for such a long time, never get into egoistic positions in public programs or public demands. It will never succeed. That led to emergency actually. Asking for the resignation of Mrs. Gandhi. The court had decided that Mrs. Gandhi can attend the parliament, but she cannot speak in the parliament. She cannot vote in the parliament. No emergency would have been there. But when the agitators went ahead and said a prime minister who cannot speak or vote in the parliament cannot be prime minister, that gave the opportunity for Mrs. Gandhi to impose the emergency. Egoistic clash. I'm not going into right or wrong. I was part of the movement, but the movement decided because the movement had become political by that time. And a political movement transformed into political movement because of the government's action. So unless you recall the whole history of how expression of dissent by the people on the road, if it has to coexist with the constitutional way of resolving issues, the condition is it must be non-violent. If it is violent, it has to be crushed. Particularly when it is at the gates of the parliament, when the parliament is in session. This is my firm view. In fact, we discussed in 1981 about the People's Union for Civil Liberties. All three of us were participating in it. Opposition, people must have unlimited right to protest. We both said nothing doing because at that time Mrs. Gandhi had come back. Pave way for anarchy, there will be no constitution, there will be no government, there will be no court, there will be no rule of law, there will be no social intercourse in this country. We must draw a line. Yes, Mrs. Gandhi has come back again, but that doesn't mean we should become anarchic. This balance is needed. We have to draw the line. Simply because somebody whom we don't like is ruling. That is not the case for throwing stones. That is not the case for violence. Picking one little meat. The whole country has gone mad. Nobody has been able to say you cannot do the post-mortem on the cancelled examination by an agitation. Somebody ought to go to court. Now you are going to court. You could have gone to court to say that you constitute an inquiry. Many inquiries have taken place on the basis of the orders of the court when you approach the court. But you have now gone to the court after agitating, after getting hit by the police and saying police took excessively a punishing action. And I don't see any sane voice in the media also. Politics is divided into two. So in this, we as an institution which has a very large idea of not only ensuring that there is a certain social constitutional order in India, but also that we play a role at the global level. See the way the media is, global media is projecting this agitation. I saw a cover page photograph in Financial Times as if Rahul Gandhi is being crushed. I don't know how many of you saw it. Anyone abroad would have seen as if there is an attempt to kill Rahul Gandhi. Foreign media will take advantage because they don't like the rise of India. They would like India to be subordinate, to be moderate, to be subject to them. But do we see? Does the Indian media see that this is the change in the position of India. You are no more a country which is dismissed. It's a country of consequence today. We'll play a global role. We are a sought after country. I am leaving the Prime Minister aside, who has a very high stature in the world. But as a nation, we are a consequential nation. The idea is to discount you, to bring you down, to make you lose legitimacy and credibility in this petty matter. In the larger scheme of things, NEET is a petty matter when the mischief has been remedied. If the mischief is not remedied, it's a big matter. But this is not how the discourse has gone. I've been watching it very silently for 2 days, and then only I agreed to give an interview yesterday. But I feel that all of us have a responsibility. This particular institution, I think, must come out with a paper. Arvindji, I'm requesting all of you. The dialogue between Gopal Krishna Gokhale and Gandhi on the direct action by people when there is rule of law and constitution, representative democracy, or representative politics. At the time, there was no democracy. There was a debate. Gokhale opposed it. Gandhi said no. People must have the right to register their protest. That is why he brought the yardstick of non-violence. That is how this country has been approaching. But whenever there has been violence, that has hurt the nation, hurt the people, hurt the constitution, hurt the constitutional institutions, including the court, that must make us rethink about the golden rule of non-violence as the basis for direct registration of views and protest by the public. When it is crossed by for whatever reason, we should say clearly this is wrong, this should stop. Because you have to stop first, the violence has to be stopped. We should take this position, we should go through the entire history. There have been very violent movements, even post-independence. And most of them are political. Only 3-4 apolitical movements were there. They were all non-violent. How apolitical movements have been non-violent, led by responsible people. An agitation without a responsible face is anarchic. We should say very clearly. Someone must take the responsibility. JP took it. Anna took it. The student leaders took it. They were invited for talks by the Home Minister and the Prime Minister. They took the responsibility. Here, no one takes the responsibility. So, apolitical movements need an honest, honorable face. Without that, it is bound to become anarchy. Political movements, even though it becomes violent, somebody pays for it. That particular political party pays for it. That leader pays for it in terms of his own political career. Here, no one pays for it. It's a very peculiar situation. So my feeling is we must come up with a monograph starting from this, because today there is no clarity, nothing. Imagine one human bomb had reached the parliament gates. You will say the government has not taken action. You follow? The very opposition, the very media, the very intellectuals, they will say, what nonsense. The government it must resign. That it did not happen means government is wrong because it prevented the agitators from reaching the parliament. These confusions must go. We have a certain responsibility, and as we discussed, Ramaswamy and me discussed, I'm sorry I have to mention the name of persons who are not present, including Mr. Shori, but it happened. We cannot allow street anarchy simply because we don't like the government in power. That is what happened at the time. We were all very worried. Emergency regime has come back. We were all underground fighting. Many of our people, friends were in jail. One person's finger was turned like this and folded. And the man's hand got paralyzed. A very ordinary man. All this happened in emergency. You're very worried. But that doesn't mean you can go on the street and protest or take to anarchy. These are the issues, particularly in Delhi, near the parliament. I think this Jantar Mantar must be closed down. Its purpose is over. It had maybe it had a purpose at a particular time when people were voluntarily joining out of their own impulse to protest. But here they are being gathered facelessly through Instagram. You don't know whom you are calling. You don't know who is participating. Jantar Mantar should not be the place. The government must close down Jantar Mantar, allocate places for agitation 3 kilometers, 4 kilometers away from parliament, away from courts, away from defense and other installations, so that national security is not affected. It's not just a law and order issue. It is not merely the right to protest. It is very, very important. No government has bestowed its attention because the past, the baggage of the past, the right to protest must be there, continues, and Jantar Mantar happens to be one of the symbolic places of protest, but it is no more symbolic. It is a risky place. This is my view. Thank you very much.